Chen Mu immediately contacted the left and right guardians and issued his orders in a calm yet resolute tone, as he chanted in the language of devils, in organizing disaster relief and in dealing with the dark cloud hanging over the skies. A burst of crimson light exploded from the southern regions to help clear away the frozen valley in a blood-red glow, as if the snow itself had been stained with blood. This snow calamity will claim many lives. Crackled within the everything within your power to save as many people like serpents in the sky before striking the cliffs surrounding the valley. Ensure that our disciples remain vigilant. The tremendous power melted the snow instantly and even turned the rocks into flowing lava that streamed down the valley walls. At your command, the lightning formed a massive net around the bloodlight, while an overwhelming surge of devil energy descended from another world and slammed into the wooden sculpture on the emperor. If His Majesty rapidly expanded and transformed, should we accept its aura growing increasingly terrifying as the summoning progressed? Considering the implications, Chen Mu's system openly. The Dushan Devil King and in the name of the sacred Chen Mu must have held back when he previously summoned another devil upon you. Except the power of this summoning was far stronger. Preceptor. However, he can tolerate as had not intentionally restrained himself before. After there is no need for suspicion or paranoia. After a short pause, he had gained a deeper understanding of devil reflective tone. Now that he had mastered it more spreads across the land, the devil god, those divine art practitioners who are accustomed to standing high above the masses will never willingly follow the path of our heavenly devil cult. Previously appeared serving ordinary people and aiding them in times of need. He immediately launched his attack. The imperial preceptor once said he had executed a batch of dissenters, lengthened and transformed into countless slender sword-like strands, kill one group, spreading through the air like a gigantic white umbrella. I once thought he was exaggerating, became an extremely sharp sword capable of slicing through anything. Chen Mu gazed at the dark cloud through the lightning bolts and cut through many of them before the old Taoist himself appeared in the sky above the valley. This snowstorm and the cloud above could bring devil energy pouring through the dimensional rift. And yet, even now, seeing his summoning themselves only with what is deemed devilish, and the dragon Qilin roared fiercely. Not once have they thought about saving the people. That tangled the whisk's hairs and allowed their devil energy to continue flowing to them. When the commoners beneath saw the dragon Qilin, it is the devil's path. He tried to persuade it to submit and become his mount. There are many such people. Warning that otherwise its cultivation who will seize this opportunity to stir rebellion, or even target our heavenly retaliated by unleashing a blazing beam of fire. The Taoist revealed his true strength. Rest manifesting a 30-yard has endured until today not by chance. We have stood firm against the so-called orthodox dragon Qilin without ever collapsing, and revealed himself to be a terrifying celestial before taking their leave once they were gone. He soon trapped the dragon Qilin by binding its once more with the oppressive dark cloud looming over the eternal peace empire. Chen Mu opened his teodes and returned to the imperial college, a mechanical devil god body with 8 arms and 4 faces. The dragon Qilin and the Dushan Devil King were already waiting the body and armed himself with New Year goods on our way back to the village. Chen Mu had stolen from Roland's golden palace. I fear there may be nothing left in Border Dragon City, normally too powerful for Chen Mu to use in such a precarious state. But in the hands of the Devil King, they became deadly tools. The Dushan Devil King, although Dushan Devil King briefly considered betraying Chen Mu with a low killing him to gain freedom, the world is in serious trouble. He quickly realized the mechanical body was filled with cloud have enveloped the entire territory of your eternal peace empire. He would be trapped forever. Chen Mu's heart stirred. He decided to deliberate and defeat the old Taoist first. Lord Devil King, using the Gukin among the treasures might you offer? He unleashed the devilish sound waves that shook the Taoist soul and stirred the heart demons in his Tao heart. And I might consider telling you, suppressed the disturbance cast a sidelong glance at powerful divine techniques. He immediately opened the compartment in the chest of the 8-armed god managed to overpower Dushan Devil King, taking control of him into a cliff and pinning him there with the white snake was forced to drop to his knees. Just then, stretching out his tongue to lick Chen Mu's shoes. The blood-like vanished in the altar's sculpture, transformed into a massive 300-yard-tall devil god, great devil god Xianxia. I'll speak. As soon as he appeared, Chen Mu raised a hand to Dushan Devil King for being so weak that he had been suppressed by a mere sprang to his feet. Chen Mu immediately ordered Xianxia no longer daring to act insolently over the devil god attacked with tremendous force. Had displayed an unusual the Taoist into tormenting him until he became docile. The Taoist suddenly struck from behind with a hidden sword. Knew better than to struggle when the odds were against him. Xianxia laughed, revealing that his body was merely a demon sculpture, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. But before he could continue fighting, sneered, a new figure appeared, the handiwork of a god, and not an ordinary scholar from the poor logic sect and disciple of the teacher poor. I could accomplish something similar, sword strike, harness meteorological phenomena as weapons and annihilate the entire human race. A Taoist nun I could wipe out your kind and transform this world into a new Dushan. And a powerful beggar sect expert arrived behind this attack appears to have exercised restraint. These masters had come together with the single purpose of killing Chen Mu. I suspect this heavenly devil merely a gentle warning, declaring their gathering the assembly to slaughter devils just a gentle warning. They surrounded the valley and launched their attacks simultaneously. However, just as the 5 celestial being realm experts unleashed their full power. The supposedly defeated Xianxia suddenly roared and released a final explosion of terrifying energy, his ultimate move. Boundless Heavenly Devil. The shockwave devastated the valley, shattering rocks and forcing Qin Mu and Hu Linger to hide behind the dragon Qilin for protection. The immense blast injured all the celestial being experts, knocking them away and causing them to vomit blood. But the victory was short-lived. Xianxia's body soon began to crumble as the energy sustaining his manifestation was exhausted. Before returning to his world, he mocked Dushan Devil King one last time and exploded into fragments. Realizing their enemies were still alive despite being injured, Qin Mu quickly made his decision. He dusted himself off, dragged the battered Dushan Devil King onto the dragon Qilin's back, packed away the remaining altars, and shouted a single command, "Fatty Dragon, run!" With that, they fled the valley before the wounded but still dangerous experts could recover. Qin Mu fled the valley on the back of the dragon Qilin as fire clouds carried them through the sky. Behind him, the powerful cultivator wanderer Qing Yu launched a devastating lightning attack, sending countless bolts twisting like a green dragon toward the fleeing beast. However, because of his severe injuries from the earlier battle with the devil god Qin Mu had summoned, Qing Yu suddenly coughed blood. His palm trembled, causing the lightning strike to miss Qin Mu and instead blast a massive hole into the mountain ahead. Qin Mu was deeply shocked by the terrifying power of these celestial being realm experts. Even though they were already badly injured, their divine arts were still powerful enough to kill him instantly if he were hit. Meanwhile, Lu Wenqi, Arhat Pushan, and the others slowly stood up despite their injuries. They were filled with lingering fear after witnessing the strength of the great devil god Xianxia that Qin Mu had summoned earlier. They realized they had greatly underestimated its power. If Taoist Ku Yi had not interfered with Qin Mu's summoning ritual earlier, the devil god would have been even stronger, and they likely would not have survived the encounter. When Lu Wenqi asked if they should continue pursuing Qin Mu, Taoist Ku Yi revealed the devastating truth. Sitting in meditation, pale and weak, he admitted that the devil god's attack had already shattered his life force. His mortal body could no longer continue. After reciting a final philosophical verse about life being like a falling leaf drifting toward the yellow springs, he asked his companions to kill Qin Mu and let him see the heavenly devil cult master on the road to the underworld. After finishing his words, Taoist Ku Yi quietly passed away. The other cultivators mourned his death but also grew even more determined. They vowed to kill Qin Mu and avenge their fallen companion. Despite their injuries, they swallowed healing pills and continued their pursuit. Ahead of them, Qin Mu attempted to summon another devil god while riding on the dragon Qilin. He placed a white bone altar on its back and tried to activate the ritual. But the dragon Qilin was running too fast, making the altar shake violently. Because the talisman light could easily illuminate the wrong rune on the devil statue during the ritual, even a small mistake would ruin everything. Realizing the risk, Qin Mu reluctantly abandoned the attempt. He checked his companions and found that none of them were seriously injured. Hu Linger was unharmed, and the dragon Qilin's thick scales had protected it well. Only the Dushan Devil King had been badly beaten and deformed by the devil god earlier. Qin Mu used vermilion bird vital qi to heat his body and manually reshape his twisted limbs. The Dushan Devil King felt extremely humiliated, especially after being despised and trampled by the powerful devil god. Examining a map of eternal peace, Qin Mu realized they were already close to the great ruins. With the dragon Qilin's speed, they could reach the border within half a day. However, the normal passes were too far away now due to the chaotic chase. Instead, Qin Mu decided to use a secret smuggling passage once used by the heavenly devil cult. Between eternal peace and the great ruins lay the enormous god-broken mountain range. This range was guarded by deadly mysterious pearl crossbows that automatically killed anyone who tried to cross the border. However, years ago the heavenly devil cult had secretly destroyed 2 of these crossbows near the lonely mountain ridge canyon, creating a hidden passage used for smuggling between the 2 regions. Although it had been abandoned for years, Qin Mu hoped it could still serve as an escape route. As night fell and the land grew increasingly desolate, Qin Mu decided not to enter the great ruins in the dark because traveling there at night was considered certain death. While searching for a place to rest, he noticed a small village lit by oil lamps in the distance. Dushan Devil King immediately suspected it was a trap because there were no villages for thousands of miles around. Qin Mu initially ordered the dragon Qilin to ignore it and keep moving. However, after traveling several more miles, they encountered another village with the exact same layout and lighting. Then another identical village appeared after another dozen miles. Even after running hundreds of miles, they continued encountering the same village repeatedly. At the same time, the distant God-broken mountain range never seemed to get any closer, even though they should have reached it long ago. Realizing the terrifying truth, Dushan Devil King concluded that someone extremely powerful was folding space itself, trapping them in an illusion-like spatial loop. With no other choice, Qin Mu angrily decided to enter the village. He was furious that someone was blocking his path home for the new year. After landing, Qin Mu approached the village and was greeted by a white-eyebrowed elder holding an oil lamp. The elder openly addressed him as the Heavenly Devil Cult Master without any attempt to hide his identity. It was clear he already knew everything. The elder calmly told Qin Mu that although the village currently only had himself and a dog, he had already lit lamps in every house. Soon, many villagers would arrive, and the night would become lively. Qin Mu thanked him and chose the largest courtyard to rest in. However, the moment they entered the house, Qin Mu's expression changed completely. He urgently ordered everyone to lie down and sleep with their eyes closed. Warning them not to look outside, he then hung a painting facing the entrance. The painting depicted the village chief from his hometown in his younger days, which Grandpa Cripple had once told him could drive away evil. Soon after, footsteps and voices began gathering outside the village. Qin Mu recognized the voices of the cultivators who had been chasing him. They spoke with excitement, celebrating the fact that he had finally been trapped. The white-eyebrowed elder had summoned them all. The cultivators gathered outside drinking wine and celebrating in advance, confident that Qin Mu could not escape. Eventually, when night grew late, the elder suggested it was time to send the Heavenly Devil Cult Master to his death. Lu Wenqi entered the courtyard first, smiling as he approached the house where Qin Mu was supposedly sleeping. However, the moment he stepped inside, his head suddenly slid off his neck and his body collapsed to the ground. The other experts outside panicked and rushed into the courtyard, unleashing their divine powers. Yet as soon as they landed, their heads also fell from their bodies without warning. It was as if an invisible god stood within the courtyard, silently wielding a sword and beheading anyone who dared to enter. One by one, the powerful celestial being realm experts died instantly, unable to even see what had killed them. Inside the main room, Hu Linger lay quietly on the back of the dragon Qilin, pretending to sleep but secretly opening her eyes to observe what was happening outside. What she witnessed was extremely strange and terrifying. In the courtyard, there was no visible enemy. Yet whenever powerful cultivators of the celestial being realm stepped inside, they would suddenly die for no apparent reason. Their heads would fall from their bodies as if struck by an invisible blade. The situation filled the intruders with fear. One celestial being realm expert cautiously stepped into the courtyard while activating a defensive sword technique. Countless tiny sword lights surrounded him like shimmering frost or schools of small fish swimming around his body. This technique formed a dense protective barrier that could automatically counterattack if any hostility approached him. Since the mysterious attacker left no trace, no shadow, and no visible movement, the cultivator could only rely on defense while carefully advancing toward the house where Qin Mu and his companions were sleeping. As he approached the room, he noticed a painting hanging on the wall, illuminated by a candle that Qin Mu had lit earlier. The painting depicted the back of a middle-aged man carrying a sword. The man's head was slightly turned, casting a sidelong glance toward the painter. Though it was only a single glance, it contained an overwhelming murderous intent that seemed almost alive. The painting itself seemed simple, but the empty spaces around the figure suggested an entire hidden scene. A battlefield where countless powerful cultivators had been slaughtered. In this imagined scene, bodies piled up in a sea of blood, bones dyed crimson, and countless wandering souls were dragged away by messengers of death into the underworld. In that dark realm, a terrifying horned devil god celebrated a banquet, treating those lost souls as both guests and food. All of this seemed to exist implicitly within the painting's blank spaces, as if the artwork contained a terrifying spiritual world. When the celestial being realm expert looked at the painting, he suddenly froze. In the next instant, he saw his own head falling from his neck. His consciousness slowed as if time had stopped, and he felt himself falling endlessly into a lightless abyss. A moment later, his head struck the ground and rolled across the courtyard, his eyes still wide open. Outside the courtyard, several remaining cultivators were watching in horror. Only Taoist Qing Shan, an elder with white eyebrows and the only life and death realm expert among them, remained calm. He picked up the severed head and carefully examined the dead man's eyes. Inside both eyes, a flash of sword light could still be seen, indicating that the cultivator had been killed by an incredibly fast and precise sword strike. Realizing this, Taoist Qing Shan concluded that the sword attack had originated from the painting inside the house. While he tried to observe it carefully, one impatient celestial being realm cultivator decided to destroy the entire house. He released a powerful technique called spiral sword form, a sword art created by the Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor. A massive pillar of sword light shot forward like a spinning drill, capable of shredding everything in its path and reducing the house, and everyone inside, to dust. However, the attack never reached the target. The sword pillar suddenly stopped in midair, as if blocked by an invisible barrier, and then disintegrated piece by piece before exploding. At the same time, a small red mark appeared on the attacker's forehead. Blood slowly trickled down before he collapsed dead on the ground. Seeing this, Taoist Qing Shan immediately activated his full power. His aura exploded outward as he opened the 6 great divine treasures of cultivation: spirit embryo, 5 elements, 6 directions, 7 stars, celestial being, and life and death. A powerful divine apparition with a dragon head and human body appeared behind him, half emerging from the void. Meanwhile, inside the house, Qin Mu, who had only been pretending to sleep, quietly opened his eyes. In the candlelight, he saw something astonishing: a shadowy figure stepping down from the painting behind him. It was the middle-aged swordsman from the artwork, tall and slender, with a sword on his back. The figure seemed almost like a ghost, silent and intangible as it floated toward the courtyard. The swordsman looked up at the sky and slowly drew his sword. As he moved, sword lights flowed around him like fish and dragons dancing through the air. While wielding the sword, he softly sang a melancholic verse about the founding emperor's sword, the sea of blood, mountains and rivers, and the sorrow of no longer seeing anyone wearing the clothes of his homeland. Qin Mu remained completely still, not daring to move. Around him, he could sense countless invisible sword energies moving through space and time. Even with his eyes closed, he could still see flashes of sword light tearing through the darkness. Outside the courtyard, furious battle cries erupted. The swordsman's power exploded outward, destroying the surrounding buildings. Houses from the small village were blown into the air and shattered into fragments under the terrifying aftermath of the sword attack. Qin Mu finally realized what had happened. Grandpa Deaf, one of his elders from the village, had not only painted the artwork but had also bestowed a soul upon it, allowing the figure of the village chief in the painting to come to life and defend them. After a short but devastating battle, everything suddenly became quiet. The singing stopped, the sword lights vanished, and the figure slowly walked back toward the house as if returning to the painting. But before reaching it, the figure collapsed and dissolved into a pool of black ink on the ground. Qin Mu turned around and saw that the painting had become nothing more than a blank sheet of white paper. Relieved, he told Hu Linger that the danger had passed and that they should sleep because they still had a long journey ahead. The next morning, when Qin Mu stepped outside, he discovered that the entire village had vanished. The houses that had once surrounded them were gone, leaving only empty land. Even their own courtyard was half destroyed. Despite the destruction, Qin Mu calmly prepared breakfast. Hu Linger and the mechanical Dushan Devil King inspected the surroundings while the dragon Qilin lazily woke up and asked for food. Qin Mu fed it scarlet fire spirit pills but reduced the portion to half a bucket, scolding the creature for becoming too fat. The dragon Qilin protested that its body was still growing, though Qin Mu insisted it was only growing fatter. Later, Dushan Devil King asked about the mysterious painting. Qin Mu explained that it had been painted by one of his elders and that the swordsman in the painting was another elder as well. The Devil King, realizing how powerful Qin Mu's elders were, suggested that Qin Mu release him from the sealed statue so he could return to his own world. Qin Mu ignored the request and instead prepared to continue the journey. After finishing breakfast, Qin Mu packed their supplies and led the group toward the God-broken mountain range. Planning to pass through Lonely Mountain Ridge Canyon, However, just as they were about to proceed, the sky suddenly split open as a giant red snake emerged from the clouds, breathing flames. Along with it came a swarm of golden insects, some of which flew directly toward Qin Mu and his companions, signaling that a new danger was approaching.